Hi guys, in part 4 of this tutorial series we are going to create a My Profile view and a template. We are also going to create a view which returns a JSON response with proposals for following, and then we are going to add a modal and load the following proposals to that modal. So let's take a look at the end results. So let me hit refresh. And then I'm going to press people to follow. We see a modal with a spinner, and then we see test user 11, test user 12. Let me hit refresh one more time. Let's press people to follow. We see a spinner, and then test user 3, test user 12, test user 4. So if we go to the results of part 3, this is exactly what we did. And here we have proposals for following, okay? If I refresh, test user 6, test user 10, test user 4 will change. We have test user 4, test user 11, test user. If I refresh again, we have test user 5, test user 2, test user 12. So basically, we need to get those proposals for following, and we need to display them in a nice way in a model, okay? And this is exactly what we are going to do in this part. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so I'm inside the profiles application folder in the views.py file, and over here we are going to create two class-based views which are absolutely mandatory for this part of the tutorial series. Those two views are going to work together, and I'm going to explain why and how just a little bit later. First, let's create those views. So the first one is going to be, let's call it my profile view. And this view will inherit from template view. So we need to do some imports. Let's do it in line number 3 from Django views generic. We want to import template view and view, right? So now we can pass in template view. And over here, what we need to define is the template name. So I'm going to create a my profile HTML file inside of templates profiles, and I will do it in a few seconds. So just for now, I'm going to put in my profile HTML, and basically our first view is created, and now it's time to take care of the second one, which will be a little bit more advanced, and it will inherit from view. Okay, so let's say that over here we want to get the data of our profile and return it in a JSON response. So with the use of JavaScript, we can actually fetch the data and use it in my profile HTML. So this is how it's going to, this new view, how it's going to work with my profile view, okay? So I'm going to call it my profile data. And as mentioned before, this will inherit from view. And I'm going to put in the get method over here. I'm going to pass in self, then args, and keyword args. And as mentioned before, we will return a JSON response. So this is another import that we need to do from Django HTTP. We want to import JSON response. Now let's put in JSON response, and yeah, we will put something inside, but for now let's leave it as it is. The first thing that I'm going to do is to define the profile. So just to be absolutely clear on something, in this part of the tutorial series we want to get the proposals of people to follow for a particular profile. Okay, so we need to get our profile, we need to get the profile of the user that is logged in. So I'm going to set a variable profile, and this is going to be profile objects get, where the user is equal to self request dot user. All right. So in the modals.py file, as a reminder, we have this get proposals for following method, and we basically get a random 3 proposal list of people to follow. So I'm just going to copy this, get proposals for following, because right now below the profile, we are going to define a query set, which is going to be equal profile, not profile test view, but profile. And then we are going to apply this get proposals for following method. And as the next step, we need to think how to actually extract the data, because we can't pass a query set like this, okay? This won't work. So I actually want for this part to pass in to this JSON response an ID of a particular user, a username, and the avatar. So what we can do is to create a list that we will initialize to an empty list at first. So maybe let's call this profiles to follow list. All right. And right now, as the next step, I'm going to loop through the query set. So I'm going to write for user in query set. And then over here, what we need to define is the profile of the particular user. So if you are not sure what is happening, you can always go back to our list comprehension. Over here is the available that we are returning. So we are returning users that are available to follow. And here, by looping through the query set, the first thing is to get the profile of those users. So let's create just a p variable, and we will assign to this profile objects get, and I'm just going to write down username is equal to username. This is how we are going to get the profile of each single user that is in this query set. Okay, so here we are returning 3 items, 3 users, and with this for loop we are grabbing the profiles of those users. So as the next step, I'm going to create another variable, profile item, and here we will have a dictionary where we are going to put in all the necessary data that we want to return with the JSON response. So as mentioned before, ID will be the first. So to the key ID, I'm assigning PID. Then we will have the user. And here, let's return P username. All right. And finally, I also said something about the avatar. It would be nice to have the avatar. So P avatar and URL. Okay. So right now we have the profile item. So over here in the query set, we will have 3 positions. So we will get the first profile item, second and third, and we need to put it somewhere. And this is why we have this profile to follow list, because at the end of each iteration, we will use it to append the profile item. Okay, and finally, we need to return it with the JSON response. So here I'm going to set a key pf data, and I'm going to set it to profile to follow list. All right, and basically this is it. Hopefully we didn't do any mistakes. So as the next step, I'm going to save this file, and let's now register those views in the urls.py file. Over here, I'm actually going to create a tuple. So let's just reorganize this really quickly, and then let's bring in the new 2 views, profile data, but also my profile view. All right, and we need to add a comma, and then over here let's register them. So path, let's say my, and we need to pass in my profile view as view, because this is a class-based view, and let's set the name to my profile view. All right. So everywhere I'm using here single quotations. So let me fix this. Okay, and then I'm going to copy this and paste it below. Here we will have maybe my profile JSON, something like this. And we need to put in my profile data as view, and my profile JSON will be the name. And yeah, basically this is it. However, this won't work just yet because we actually need to create our profile. So inside profiles application folder, we need to go to templates, then to profiles, and inside of profiles, let's create this my profile HTML. Okay. So over here, let's inherit from base HTML. Then we need to open up some blocks, block title, block content, and in the block title I'm going to put in just my profile, and in the block content for now I'm just going to put in hello world. And there's one thing that I want to check in the base HTML. So right now we have a script that is linking our main.js. Over here in the main.js we have some code written in the previous parts. So actually what I'm going to do is to comment this out, and I'm going to open up another block called block scripts over here. All right, so I'm going to save this and return to our my profile HTML because we want to open up this block scripts place where we will link a unique file, a unique JavaScript file for this particular template. So there are a couple of things that we need to do. Maybe inside of static profiles, let's actually create this file that will be linked with our template. So I'm going to put in my profile, not HTML, sorry, my profile JS. And there's one very important thing for this to work. If we go to settings py file, in the static files years, this is the place where we are telling Django where to look for static files. So yeah, make sure that you have proper settings over here. So this is of course something that we did in the previous parts. All right, so as the next step, I'm going to return to my profile HTML. I'm going to load static, load. So load static. And I'm going to link this script with the my profile HTML. So the first thing is to write script src, and then we need to refer to static. And let's go to profiles and my profile JS. So profiles, my profile JS. Okay, and then let's write defer, and let's close off the script. All right, so I wrote it actually in the wrong place. Sorry about this, guys. This should be, of course, over here, not between the blocks, but precisely in the block scripts. And yeah, let's see if this is working. So I'm going to save my profile HTML, and then I'm going to go to my profile JS. Here I'm just going to write down console log hello world, and I'm going to save my profile JS. And now it's time to go to the browser. Right, so here we have the results of the previous part. And now I'm going to change profiles test to profiles my, and here we have hello world. And if we right click inspect, if we go to the console, here we have, okay, for the favorite icon, I'm just going to refresh, and here we have hello world. All right, so this is linked up correctly. So as the next step, what we are going to do is to link up Bootstrap. So if we go to base HTML, we have the Bootstrap CSS. However, we are missing the Bootstrap bundle, and let's get it. So I'm going to head over to the docs, and I'm going to use version 4.6. And then I'm going to scroll to the starter template. We already have jQuery, so let's get this position. Let's copy this, and let's place it over here. I'm going to also get rid of the integrity and cross origin. All right, and right now I'm just going to save base HTML, return to Bootstrap, type in the search bar modal, and we are going to pick the live demo modal. So let's just copy this, and let's put it inside my profile HTML in the blog content over here. So let's save this. Let's go back to our site, refresh. We have launched demo modal, and if we click on it, it's working perfect. So obviously right now there are a few things to do. We have to actually get the data from our my profile data view, but also we need to style this a little bit. We also need to set some identifiers so we can get the elements and modify them. So yeah, let's do this step by step. First of all, let's take a look at the modal itself. So over here we have an ID example modal. I'm going to change this to follow modal, maybe something like this. And if I change it over here, I also need to change it in the trigger button. So in the data target attribute, custom attribute. All right, so right now this should do the trick. Here, let's change launch demo modal to maybe see, or people to follow, maybe people to follow, something like this. All right, and the modal title, let's change it to check who you can follow. Okay. And here in this div class modal body, let's get rid of those 3 dots. And let's add another div with a class set to text center. And the ID will be maybe to follow modal body, something like this. Let's close off the div. Actually, I made a mistake. This ID should be over here, because over in this div, inside of the modal body div, we want to have another ID, which is going to be spinner box. Okay, so sorry about this. Let's go to getbootstrap.com, and here I'm going to type in spinner, the search box, and I'm going to grab the first one. I'm going to copy it and paste it inside of the spinner box. All right, I'm going to get rid of this spam. And yeah, actually, let's do one more thing, because before we see the results, let's get rid of this Save Changes button in the modal footer. And let's also change the secondary class to danger, so this close button will appear in the red color. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to go back to our page, hit refresh, people to follow, and here it is. So now we have check who you can follow, and we have this close button, and we see the spinner. So now what we need to do is to load the data, get the data, fetch the data And firstly, let's do it in the console, and then we will put it in this modal body. Okay, so we need to return to myprofile.js, and let's put in Ajax method, jQuery Ajax method. But before we actually do this, let's get the elements. Let's see if we got them correctly. So I'm going to create a const, and let's call it to follow modal body, and this is going to be document get element by ID. Let's go to my profile and let's copy this ID. All right, so this should give us this modal body stored in the toFollow modal body variable, and we will have another const spinner box, and this is going to be document get element by ID spinner box. So as mentioned before, let's see if this is working. So I'm just going to console log the toFollow modal body, and console log spinner box. I'm going to save this. Let's hit refresh, and okay, so the modal is working, but we have null in the spinner. Okay, of course I made a mistake. Spinner box, this is how we written it down. Let's just confirm my profile spinner box. Okay, so this is my stupid mistake. Sorry about this, guys. Let's refresh, and here it is. All right, so we can proceed with the Ajax method. So the first thing is to specify the type. We want to get the data. As the next step, we need to put in the URL. So let's put in profiles, and then I have to remember what did we put in the URLs py file, my profile JSON. All right, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to put it over here. So here we are defining from where we are willing to get the data. And now let's put in success block. What happens on success? We will have a function that takes in a response, and we can console log the response, and then in case of error, we will have a function that takes in error, and we will console log the error like this. All right, so let's see what do we have over here. Let's refresh, and we have the pf data, and this is an array with 3 elements. So let's open it up, and we have ID 11, 12, 5. We have 3 elements because if we go to modals py file, we are returning available limited to 3 items. Okay, so here are the 3 items, and we are shuffling them. So if I right now click refresh, we have 5, 12, 2. Okay, if I refresh, we have 7, 3, 4. Okay, so we are getting different proposals each time. Okay, so since we have it over here, let's now figure out how we can place it in the model. So this is the next challenge, and in order to do this, we need to return to our myprofile.js file. Let's go to the success block, and here let's store the response. So I want to create a const called maybe people follow data or pf data, and this is going to be response, and then I'm going to grab this pf data key and put it over here. So we have pf data, and this is response pf data. We can console log pf data, and I'm just going to get rid of this console log response. And here I made a mistake, PD data, it should be PF data. Let's see, what do we have over here? And we have an array of 3 elements. So right now we can actually loop through this array and we can get all the necessary information. So what is interesting for us is to display the user and the avatar and put it in the modal. So on the left we will see the avatar, then we will see the user, and somewhere over here we will see also the follow button, which functionality will be applied a little bit later. And in order to do this, we need to perform a for each method on our PF data, and let's do it with a set timeout. So I'm going to put in set timeout. Let's say that we want to put in 2 seconds, so 2000 milliseconds. And here, the first thing that I'm going to do is to get rid of the spinner box. So after approximately 2 seconds, we will get rid of the spinner box class list. And then I'm going to write add, and we are going to add the not visible class defined in our style CSS. So this is the first thing. Then I'm going to perform this for each method on the PF data. So PF data for each. We are going to grab a single element, and then let's grab this to follow modal body. Let's go to inner HTML, and we will be adding some code. So let's just remember to use backticks, because we will be actually doing this in a multi-line, and we will be injecting some variables, some values from this PF data. So as the first step, maybe let's just put in div and hello world. Let's see how this will look like. Okay, so maybe let's also make world bolded. Okay, so just to show that we can type HTML over here. So let's save this. Let's refresh. So we actually see 3 times hello world, but we didn't see the spinner, and this is because it's actually there if we click on it very, very fast. So if I refresh, the spinner is here, and after 2 seconds it disappears. But if we refresh and wait, for example, 3 seconds, it's gone. Okay, so what we need to do is to actually go to our my profile HTML. We need to go to our button that triggers the modal, and here let's say that we will create another ID, BTN, or maybe to follow BTN, something like this, to follow BTN. Let's add this ID, and let's grab this button element. So I'm just going to copy the ID. I'm going to go to my profile JS, and maybe somewhere over here I'm going to create another const to follow BTN, and this is going to be document get element by ID again, and we are going to pass in this ID. And right now we are going to write to follow BTN, and we are going to add an event listener. So we are going to listen on the click event. Okay, and once there is a click event on this to follow BTN button, we are going to execute this Ajax method. So we need to cut it and put it inside. Right, so let's save this. Let's hit refresh. And now I'm going to wait 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and click people to follow, and we have the spinner. Okay. However, right now we will have another problem. So we didn't see the spinner, and instead of 3 hello worlds, we see 6 hello world. So in order to prevent this from happening, let's actually create another variable. Let's create a flag. I'm just going to call it to follow loaded. All right, and I'm going to set it to false. And then I'm going to actually grab this to follow loaded, set it to true over here, and I'm going to execute this code if not to follow loaded. Yeah. So I have again problems with my mouse. Let me grab this. Let's see how this will work right now. I'm going to save it. Let's hit refresh. People to follow, spinner, hello world, okay. And right now if we press people to follow, we see hello world, and nothing is being added. Okay, so this is exactly what we wanted to achieve. All right, so instead of displaying hello world, what we want to do is to actually display the users that we can follow. So in order to do this, I'm going to get rid of the content of the div, and I'm going to begin by defining a class. So here I'm going to put in row, and also I'm going to add a margin bottom 2, and then align items center to center them vertically. And inside we are going to create some columns. So the first one will have a div class equal to call2, and over here this is going to be the place where we will put in our avatar. So I just need to put an image class, and we will define a special class in our style CSS for the avatar. And I'm just going to place source, and here we need to inject the element avatar. So we need to refer to L, of course. At the beginning we need to add a $, L avatar. This should do the trick. And let's add out to, for example, again with the $, L user. And let's close off the image. So as mentioned before, we actually need to define the image class. So yeah, let's do it right away. So we need to go to our style CSS, and below the not visible class we are going to put in the avatar class. And what I'm going to do over here is to set the width to 50 pixels, the height to 50 pixels, and I'm going to put in the border radius to 50%. All right, so let's save this and let's return to my profile.js. Okay, so this is the first column. The second column will be the place where we will display the username. So I'm just going to put in div class equal to, let's just put in call3. All right, and here I'm going to put in another div with a class equal to text muted, and let's close up the div, and let's inject element user. All right, and finally let's just place the button. So div class, and here I'm just going to put in call and text right. Okay, and over here I'm going to add a button with a class equal to btn and then btn success. So we want to have a green button, success, like this. And I'm going to put in follow, and I'm going to close off the button. All right, let's save this and let's see what we will have over here. People to follow, and I'm going to press Command-Shift-R. Let's see how this will work right now. Yeah, I didn't add the avatar class. Sorry about this, guys. I'm extremely tired. Avatar. Let's do it one more time. People to follow. And there it is. This is exactly what we wanted to accomplish. Test user 10, test user 2, test user 6. Perfect. Then if we refresh the page, people to follow, we have the spinner, and we have test user 2, test user 6, test user 4. Weren't they the same? Let me refresh one more time. Test user 6, test user 12, test user 4. Let's do it one more time. Test user 5, test user 4, test user 12. Alright, guys. Let's finish off over here. We will see each other in the next tutorial. I'm going to sleep because I'm terribly exhausted. So wish you all a great day, great night, and see you soon. Take care and bye-bye.